Welcome to First Coat, where we explore public realm art, how it's made, and why it matters. I'm your host, Stephanie Etche, an artist and entrepreneur based in Brooklyn, New York. I run Distill Creative, where I curate and produce site-specific art projects for real estate developers. I focus on creating more equitable and inclusive projects, and I want to get more exposure for the artists and developers doing this work. This week on First Coat, we have Atentamente Una Fresa. Atentamente Una Fresa is an artist based in Mexico City. We discuss the new normal for mural installations, how she started doing public art, how music affects her work, the benefits of art in public space, the benefits of doing art with community, and how and why she makes creative briefs for clients. When we recorded this interview, Atentamente Una Fresa was actually on site working on a mural for a company in Mexico City. So check out the Distill Creative YouTube channel to get some behind the scenes look at her install. Here's our conversation. That's so awesome.
Yes, we just started on Monday.
Oh my gosh.
I hope we finish it on Friday. So I was a little bit nervous if I should start or no, or should accept the job, because I was on my house all these months and I didn't know if to accept it. But well, I decided to go for it with precaution, and I am using like all my protection stuff. So yeah. So let me go over there. We have here other workers and they might get into our noise.
Yeah, no problem. This is awesome. Welcome to First Coat. I'm so excited to talk to you and see you on site.
Thank you very much.
We have Atentamente Una Fresa on today as a guest from Mexico. You're in Mexico City right now, right?
Yes.
Welcome. So what is this project you're working on right now? Like, where are you?
Well, I'm in the top of a building. Let me show it to you. Here is Mexico City. We have in the center of Mexico City. And right now I am working on it is a package delivery store. And these are going to be their new offices, and they took advantage that they are closed right now, so they decided to set up the mural. So here we are working over there.
Wow. That's so cool. I just got off the phone with a client. They're working, I'm overseeing a project that's going up in DC. And there's like all these little things that on top of the normal issues with installing, it's like you have to have a mask now and you have to like know where to use the restroom. That's like who used that lift, and just there are just all these other complications that you don't normally have to think about, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like I am always carrying my disinfectant thing. So I touch anything and like, oh no, I forgot this, and I'm always wearing a mask. And if I see some worker coming by, I go like, no, talk to you. But well, I think this is going to be like the new type of work, because I was doing some canvas in my house and I did have a lot of illustration like by computer, and but I really miss doing a mural. And when the offer come by, well, I didn't know I was really that full, but now I think that if you follow like all the security procedures that are now, well, you maintain safety, and well, with that, I think that might work.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of work you're making right now?
Yes, actually, I sold my mural stuff. I do pop surrealism. I develop a character which is like creepy eyes but colorful backgrounds, and that is like my main essence. So I try to add like fun stuff to it. Like all my eyes, I try to do these things because I think they're a little bit deep, you know. If you see those eyes, they might be a little bit melancholic. No sad, but more like in a deep thought. But if you see like all the colors in the backgrounds are very colorful and very joyful, and I some add like weird stuff like this is like a cuckoo bird, like go from from like a clock. And I think like I try to add those things to my work because I think like life is like that, no? That you have a balance between the sad stuff and melancholy and deep feelings, but you have like a lot of joyful and cheerful stuff, which are like all the backgrounds and have another. So I want to inspire that in my work, that when you see my work, you can get like those mixed feelings, right? That you're like, you're not sure that if you're awkward with the eyes, two characters like in the main setup, and they're delivering stuff and this is going to be a ship, but right now it's nothing. Right now it's just white, but tomorrow will be a ship, and it's going to be like an adventure time. Adventure for delivering packages, because this is the main brand that I'm right now working with, that it's a delivery package. So I wanted to represent like how amazing and adventurous can be a delivery.
That's so interesting, because are they considered essential workers in Mexico right now?
Yes, that is like the main companies that are working right now. That because everything is closed, but delivery, and people are right now not getting away from their homes. So in Mexico, deliveries, all delivery companies are working a lot. So yeah, they are essential.
How do you prep for this type of project? Like, it looks like a pretty long wall. Do you project on the wall, or do you grid, or do you just freestyle?
I just freestyle. Well, first I make a sketch, a digital sketch. I take a picture of the wall with my, and on my iPad, I start sketching on digital and with colors. So I have like the final work, but I never project in a project. Yeah, and also I don't read because I like to be a little bit, I maintain my proportions when I do my sketches, but my style is very free, and I like that of my art, that if I have like an arm going like very straight, and when I am painting, I need to twist it a little bit. I like to be free to do it. So I always start with pencil. All my murals start with pencil. So let me show you if you see all my sketches are with pencil. So before I start to paint, I do it with pencil, and I guide myself with things that are too thin or the tubes on top. When you have a picture of the wall and I do my sketch with the picture, I can have like all those references. So I do it like, oh, I think here's the main face, and then I change. And for example, in my sketch, the boat was a little bit shorter.
What inspires your work?
Well, mainly I go first with how am I feeling right now, and how do I get to express what I feel. So first are emotions, and sometimes I am a little bit melancholic and a little bit joyful, as I was saying, but also I have many artist inspirations that through all of my life they have been a great value for me, such as Remedios Varo. I don't know if you will know her. If you don't, go and look for her. Because Remedios Varo, it is a lot of, I love her work. She has a lot of details, and she pictures herself like in amazing worlds. She be very surreal with all the characters, and she tries to put out of context everything. And I really like that, no? Like, you break the context of a thing that you are used to. So if you have like a face, then put the arm on the face, or put the nose to be different.
I definitely see Remedios Varo in your work. That's really interesting.
Sometimes it is impossible. So that is a compliment, definitely. She's a really powerful inspiration for me. And I also love the work she does on her hands, and the way she adapts architecture on her compositions. I think I wish I had a little bit, that actually is something I want to add on my work, to put powerful backgrounds, because sometimes I put too much on my characters, and I get a lot of days working on every detail on the characters, and sometimes I miss the backgrounds, the importance of the backgrounds, and that's something I am working right now.
How did you first start making art in public spaces?
In the beginning, I was doing, as I hope every artist did, just for fun. And I started painting when I was a teenager. At the beginning, I was doing with my friends and doing it for fun. And after repeating, when I was in university, well, in college, I used to paint with a lot of friends in parties, and that's when I met a lot of graffiti painters. And I always liked graffiti, but for me, being a girl, it was a little bit difficult to do graffiti, because I never liked to do illegal paint on streets. Because as a girl, sometimes here in Mexico City, it's a little bit dangerous to be all by yourself. And sometimes graffiti is kind of risky. So I started to do it on the legal stuff. So I started painting on my university, at college, to my old friends' houses. And I think all artists know that when you do something, that work will take you to another place. So everything took me to one place and another, and recommendations one from another, until I was finally doing what I love. As I was very fortunate, because I have many clients at the beginning, and that allowed me to never to do illegal graffiti, because I never liked illegal graffiti.
I think that's a really good point you bring up. That's part of why I haven't done work in public. I'm so jealous of people who grow up working with a crew or like doing graffiti around town with their friends. It takes a certain amount of courage for sure, but in some places it just actually is very dangerous for women. And I think it's something that we don't talk about that much, but there's a reason why there are a lot of men in the street art community, because they kind of grow with these crews and grow up with this community that is completely different for a woman.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes there are more graffiti girls and in these times, but it's always risky, you know. I never like to I have done a lot of outdoor works, but I always are very, I have a lot of precautions, and I try never to be like to wear things that might attract attention to me. I try to be very discreet. I think a lot of boys are fortunate to have that, you know, a crew when you go and you, like, I don't know, go with your boys, and that's fun, but I didn't grow with that, you know. But I like that, because I never start doing bombs. Like, I never had my tag name, like Atentamente Una Fresa bomb. No, you never. I never did that. I always painted my character. I did it like that, like starting finding my opportunities at my college with my friends. And with the time, I have met a lot of graffiti artists, and I am grateful that now I have a community, and I love them, and we are very united, and we look after each other. But it was after many years of being on the field.
Do you keep a sketchbook?
Yes, I do, but right now I don't got it with me. But I it's difficult for me sometimes to have I have like sketch papers, one for each other. Like, I never couldn't have a sketchbook, because sometimes my ideas are very horrible. And I need to, like, oh, I need to put this down, and I have, like, I put any number on my beautiful sketch, and I was like, oh no, I ruined it. So, because I like to be very freestyling on my work. When I have like a sketch I really like, I rip it apart and I immediately put it on a frame. because I know it might go ruined by another idea of mine.
So you work on loose leaf paper and then like save the things you like and get rid of the things you don't like?
Yes, yes, exactly. You have an amazing idea on a napkin, and there's a chance to make an amazing thing because you have 2 hours that you don't have to do anything, just wait. And then you have a that works with me that I have love the way he frames. So I am very close to him, and I have been working with him a lot. So every time I do something I like, I frame it.
I love that.
Yes.
This podcast is sponsored by JPG Legal. File your trademark application with an experienced trademark attorney. They have flat fee services, so there are no surprises. You have no excuse not to register your trademark. Just go to jpglegal.com. Full disclosure, JPG Legal is run by my husband. When we first met, he had a solo practice, and now he has 5 employees. Everyone's safely working from home right now, so I miss seeing them in person. If you need a trademark, go to jpglegal.com. Can you explain how you started going by Atentamente Una Fresa?
Well, actually, Atentamente Una Fresa in Spanish means sincerely a strawberry. But I've always looked at all the artists have a surname, like you have your real name and you have your graffiti bomb name. And Atentamente Una Fresa comes from, developing a name, but it's a little bit sarcastic, because I always wanted to be like, I have a name that refers to something that I never wanted to be, that it's in Spanish and in Mexico, a fresa, that is a strawberry, it also goes for a preppy girl, and my family is like very conservative, and we're like, my mom was always trying to teach me to be a preppy girl and a decent girl, and I always have like a lot of rules of how to be, and I never was like that. I always like very, not that I'm not decent, I am very decent, but I always wanted to be, I don't know, I think my beauty is different like my art. I like weird stuff and deformed faces, and I think that's where beauty is. And that's, I think sometimes we confuse what is beauty. And Atentamente Una Fresa also, it was a fruit. I had a dream that this was this girl that had a heartache of love, and she wanted to take away that heartache. So she took away her heart and put instead a strawberry. In the dream, I was dreaming about this girl that took away her heart, and instead she put a strawberry on it. So I like that really much, because I imagined that I was a fruit. And when I started drawing, I always like paint what I was dreaming, and I like to imagine that I never was the one that was painting. It was something else that put that image on my mind. So I'd really like to know that it's not me the one is painting, is that strawberry girl. So it goes for those two things, to be, not to be a preppy girl inside my head. And that's it.
That's awesome. I was wondering if you were referring to fresa, like the connotation of fresa, or not.
Yes.
Does music inspire your work?
Well, music for me is everything. I can never work without music. I really love that it really reflects what you think. For example, I love Radiohead. It's one of my favorite bands. The first song I heard was Creep. I'm a creep. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like that. I am a creep. And I love that song because I can appropriate the lyrics, the music, and I feel it in myself, and I am that. And it is very crazy that someone else invented. It is very special for me when that happens with my art, that when somebody I am your piece, because it happens to me like the way I felt with music, that we are sometimes in a mind collective of ideas, and when you are similar to other feelings, that's when you some sort to feel like a relief. I don't know, when you hear a really cool song that you are like, wow, this is me. This is definitely me. So I love music.
What do you listen to when you're working?
I love Cuban music. My favorite is Buena Vista Social Club. If you try to hear it, it's awesome because I love Cuban music because it's very cheerful, and it has a lot of instruments, and it's very complex and very warm, because all the rhythms and the trumpets and the flutes, and it is very, very, very complex music. But what I love more from Cuban music is that the lyrics are very, very simple. You know, you have all the musical instrument arrangement very complex, but they are saying that they are going to eat chicken. And I love that, and I really, really love that of Cuban music, more of Buena Vista Social Club, because I love the way they talk about simple things, you know, and they are just saying whatever happens to them, that what everything happened. Like, I went from outside and I went to a store and I found an apple, and then there was a tree, you know. It's so simple, but when the lyrics are so simple and the music arrangement you hear like behind those lyrics, it is like outstanding. It's like, this is amazing. And that is a feeling I like very much when people are, and that is something I really try to put on my art, that I try to put a lot of details, and I add like a lot of complex things, but just to express a very simple idea, no? Like, I'm wearing a sock. That was like a few days ago, I made canvases that are just two characters wearing like a sock thing, you know, like a puppet
like a
sock.
Sock puppet, yeah.
And it took me days and days and days developing that piece just to be a character with a sock. And that thing is that really, I don't know, fills my heart.
I love that about Buena Vista Social Club. I've never thought about it that way. It's such a nice way to read.
Yes.
Can you share a bit about how you document your work and why?
How you document as in pictures, or how?
Or if there's other ways that you document your work.
Well, I always work with my boyfriend, Diego, that was over there. I try to make a lot of videos and time lapse and pictures of my work. Sometimes I try to develop time lapse, but sometimes videos are kind of awkward for me, because everyone pictures that the time of mural painting is like, it's outstanding and amazing. But sometimes you're like, I don't know, like you fail in something, and then you have, I don't know, like the worst hair, and you're all tired, and you look awful. Like right now, my face is awful, and my hands are all dirty, and I am sweaty, and all of that things. Or like right a few minutes ago, I was painting and I fell with my pencil, and and I didn't know. Imagine I was recording that. It's like, no. I try to put like the process. I always try to take pictures of my sketches and the main ideas. I always, before I do a mural, I do a sketch, a pencil sketch, and I share it. The most important ideas where the mural was born, the Eureka time. Before there was this giant mural coming to life, there was me in my desk, just figuring out what to do. And then pencil sketch came through, and I love pencil sketches. I think those are my favorites because that time is when I am more concentrated and I am in my house, comfortable, listening to the music that I love, and everything is cool. So that is when the idea is I want to see. Murals are a little bit tough, and when you're on the streets, it is nice to share. I love to when people come by, but sometimes it's difficult that you are painting and someone come by and, what is it? Is that a dog or a mountain? And it's like, no, sir, that is his nose. And sometimes it's tricky, but it's nice when you're like in the streets sharing art with people. It's crazy.
How do you think art can create or strengthen a community? And do you have any projects that you've done in the past that have done that?
Well, I think art, it really gets community together. And I have done many works for little towns here in Mexico. One that it was very special to me was I did it on top of a mountain in a state that it's called Querétaro, and it's on top of the mountain where there's a little town where they have a community cultural center. And I developed a mural with the help of the children in there, and it was very nice because the children came and expressed what they wanted to show in the mural. Like they were telling me, I want to put a bird and trees and the clouds, and I was drawing with them and trying to like all the feelings they wanted to express. And finally we painted with all the kids in the town, and they really love my mural. Like I really love the way they accept my work, and they, instead of seeing my work as Atentamente Una Fresa's work, they see it as their own work. There was their feelings, their ideas, the way they see the world in that mural through my work. So it was very, very special to me that all the ideas were inspired in a community. Mm-hmm. And when you paint a wall, a gray wall, it changes the surroundings automatically. It doesn't have to be collaborative with all the people around. If it is collaborative, it is even more special. But even though to be out there on the street, I like that. I like very much street art because it's different from what we're used to see in the museums, because it's art for everyone, The art is for you, whoever you are. It doesn't matter what political, religious, or social class are you, or if you go back if you go to school in that way and you see my mural, it is for you. So many people sometimes get to love their surroundings, and when it is colorful, I think you inspire them to be in a different way. It is very important that art exists in every corner of the world because we're very, like, urbanism, it is a lot of gray walls, and gray walls, sometimes they inspire, I don't know, like divisions. And when you get to put some color in their lives, changes, and you can change a whole community just to be there and being more colorful and changing to go to school or store, because that is what street art is supposed to be.
Are you an artist? Submit your portfolio at distillcreative.com/artist. You'll get on our Distill directory, our artist database, and be considered for upcoming art commissions. What tips do you have for other artists who are working with the community collaboratively?
First of all, to keep doing it, to never stop. I always say, like, never stop and never die. And well, of course, one day we will all die. When you get to work with community, you expand yourself and you expand the way you work. I was fortunately recently to work with a Jewish community. I am not Jewish. I have no religion. I am non-religious person. But it was very special to me that I could work with the Jewish community, and I was working with for a school that there were teachers, parents, kids, and all the people that wanted to paint, and it was very interesting the way everyone worked. Sometimes when you get to share the way other people are painting, and when you're painting you're like meditating, because you don't need to be very concentrate, like I am doing this line. No, it's not like that. You are going with a lot of things in your mind. You're talking, you're listening to music, you're remembering other things, you are watching the moment, talking to others, and it is a very intimate space when you can communicate with a lot of trust. I don't know why. I don't know really why is the reason, but when I was working on that project, I could talk with many other of the parents that they were there, and they opened to me, with their what's going on with their lives, with their children, and not that I care really, because I always care for people, but I'm not a very askful person. If you want to share with me something, I'm always open, but art opens a place to be very trustful with others and to open your heart and your feelings, because it's a very intimate space when you're just painting and thinking, and then it just pop your ideas, and those ideas are very special, very very special. So yeah, if you are an artist and you love to collaborate, well, art is for that. Art is for sharing, art is for others, because there's no art with no spectator. If there's art is a dialogue between the one who is seeing it and the one who is getting all the feelings and the one who is expressing it, and without two people there's non-expression of art.
How do you balance your fine art practice with your public art practice, or do you see them as different things?
I wish it was the same thing, of course, because sometimes the limits are the ones that you in public spaces. Sometimes you don't have like your intimate space. Sometimes when you are in your house, as I was telling you before, like when you're in your house very comfortable and no one is disturbing you and you're in your safe comfortable place, ideas grow there, and it's very inspirational when you do that. And when you're outside, well, sometimes you're not comfortable at all, you're like tired, and sometimes you have the sun. I used to live in Playa del Carmen, and I painted a few murals in Tulum, and I remember I was like sweating a lot, and it was really hot, and I was like all burned in my skin, and I was like, but that is why I always try to develop my digital sketches at home. So when I have all my concentration and all my power and all my heart doing that, the planification, and when I am painting the mural, well, now is not the time to feel or express, the time to work, so I always try to do the best of me. And if I'm doing some graffiti thing to a tortilleria, I try to do my best.
Do you show work in art
and
galleries?
If I'm doing it, yes, I do, because as an artist you have to explore all areas. I like galleries because the opportunity they offer. It is also very the classic stuff when you put your work and everyone goes and chat with you, and it is very special, and you have cocktails going on, and well, who wouldn't like cocktails and appetizers. But I always like, I don't know, I don't like the preppy stuff, I don't like really, I love more going on the streets and going with people. And I usually don't really like the silent art show, that you go into a museum and you can touch anything and you must be silent. And I think street art and graffiti contradicts a little bit that idea. We go for more that touch everything, be as loud as you can. But every choice is good. So I'm never close to anything. In fact, if you offer me to go in a taqueria and put my art with tacos, I will do it.
That'd be awesome. I want to see that. How do clients find you?
I think I am a very reachable person. Most of my clients come from social media. That is something that artists should know, that social media sometimes is horrible or the most amazing thing there is. It has those two faces. Because I've seen that you can go into the marketing thing instead of the art thing, and you should never go on that, because sometimes that is very, very tricky. I have worked with many brands, and sometimes it's hard because you always want to, myself, I always want to represent the real art thing, the real concept of my art, and not just some marketing going thing. But it's always a balance, if I have my style very clear, that is something that is very fortunate for me, and I never accept something that it doesn't go with my style or doesn't go with my flow, because that it's nonsense. I've done it before many years, because before I didn't have that much work chances when I started. When I was a beginner, I needed to eat and maintain my life, so I accepted all kind of works. But with clients, I always try to express. I try to always make like a brief. What do you want to show in the mural? What do you want to express? What are the values of the brand? What the brand wants to get into the clients? And we do a briefing. Everything is written. And after we have everything written with the client and me, we read them. And then I do a sketch with my art, with my style, representing all of that ideas. So if we have logistics, we have a client that want to express logistics, I try to put a weird character with a lot of things of logistics. And then I try to explain every point of my art to the client, and I go look, these express logistics, these express the valuable with our clients, these express so the client knows that everything he or she told me in the brief is expressed. And now then we can arrange things, or we can change little details. So now, instead of putting the phone, put I don't know, but it is very important that clients do a guideline, but not to change the art concept, and never to get into what is marketing and maintain what is art, because nowadays is more, it's almost invisible, what is marketing and what is line, and I don't like that.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about a creative brief. Is that something that the client provides you, or or do you ask questions to the client?
That's something I always does. With doesn't matter if it's like a brand or a person. I always do a brief because I like the art to express exactly what the client wants. You know, sometimes, for example, if and I make some questions, and it depends if it's a person or it is a company. You know, because sometimes when it is a company, I base all my questions to how is the client and what does the brand want to express to the client, you know, but to understand who is the final customer, what does the final customer want from the brand, and what does the brand is different offering that to the customer, right? So that is one brief. And for the brief for the people is different. I go to very deep questions like what are their hobbies, what are they passionate about, what they don't like, what they are afraid of, or if they have any goals. And I always add like a tricky question like, why are you here in life? Just to be I don't know, like to be a little bit tricky and to try to adapt those deep feelings of people and to express them. And also I touch the topics of what is the things they don't like or what they are afraid of, to understand what are their contrary things they are seeing. So I always make a brief no matter what, because before making any sketch, I make concepts of idea. I develop a mental map, and I put concepts first, because first I have my words. So imagine I'm before making the art, I'm saying like, okay, I want to express architecture, but family, but mindfulness, and that client doesn't like extravagancy. So, you know, then you can mix the concepts and then appears into figures. So that is always my structure of work.
Thank you for sharing your process. That's really interesting.
Thank you.
Do you do that over a period of time, or do you start on the concept and then go directly into drawing in one day, or does it depend?
Well, in the beginning, when I was painting not to clients but just for myself, I started first. I started with no concepts at all. I was just like, what do I feel? This, go ahead. And then I was like always freestyling, you know, like I have a round ball and then it's going to be a head. And now it's going to carry an ice cream, and in the top of ice cream is going to be a mermaid with a house and with a gnome. And it developed like a lot of ideas. And I still do that, but not for clients. You know, when I always try to make work for me, because sometimes you as an artist need that. You need to express what you feel without knowing if it's going to sell or is not, or if it's going to be for someone or not, because the art that is for ourselves is the more special, and you can take weeks in developing that, and you don't have the pressure of time, and the result of that are for me are my favorite pieces, because they express what actually I am feeling. That is very important for me to make. And I always try to make art for me, because that is why I started making that to express myself and to understand my ideas and the way I am feeling, and to have a balance on my life. But after a few years, when I started to be a little bit more known, I had often projects and often work projects with clients, and sometimes there is not too much time for me, but I always have to have the time.
What's one thing you wish you had known before you started your career as an artist?
First of all, to have a good exercise condition. I have had a lot of injuries in my hand and on my back because of too much painting. And that there should be always security procedures. I hurt my hand after one mural that it was very, very tall, and I didn't follow the security procedures that I needed, and I fell. But not too high. But if I was using my rope and my helmet and all the security procedures, after I always have my an insurance, and now I hire all those services that are essential for doing a job, because it is risky. Sometimes doing high murals, it is a sport, and it has to have the safety patterns to develop something that is safe. And I didn't know that at the moment, and I was like young and risky, and it's like nothing is going to happen to me because I am strong and young. And now things happen, and you always have to be cautious and always have safety first. That is what I should have. I wish I knew that before, because now I sometimes I get my hand pains when I paint too much, and that is something I could avoid it if I did it in the beginning.
Well, that's a really good thing to keep in mind, because I think, like you were saying earlier, sometimes if you're looking at street art online, it looks really glamorous because you're seeing like the final project or the work in progress on like a time-lapse video of someone doing it, but it actually is a lot of hard work, and it's
yes,
physically hard. Like it's physically strenuous on your body, like takes a lot out of you.
Yes. You need to have a very good exercise condition to develop high murals, because if not, you die. Once, many years ago, I painted Hangover. It's the worst thing I ever done in my life. I would never go Hangover again to work. Because you need to be good, you need to be strong, and you're going like your back at the end of the day is like in pain. And everything is in pain. So you need to be strong.
Are you a real estate developer looking for a unique amenity for your site? Get our free guide, 10 tips for commissioning a site-specific artwork, at our website, distillcreative.com. Is there anything you're reading or listening to that's inspiring you right now?
Actually, I really like Mafalda. I don't know if you know the comics of Mafalda. One of my favorite authors is Kino, which is Argentino. He's from Argentina. And I really like Mafalda because it talks about politics and social movements, and she criticized the way social models are, or social roles are played, like the way girls need to form a family and not to study and take care of their homes. And Mafalda is always like, I don't know, arguing with the entire world about that, but it is a very childish point, well, not childish, but like very young, and it is the world seen through a child eyes. So I love the way he works, and I love comics. I've always read novels and that, but sometimes it's hard for me to read a lot of stuff because I am more like, I like to watch pictures, and I always have books with pictures. And well, Kino, he's my favorite. He has done like a lot of criticism, social criticism, but in a very original way. I totally recommend Mafalda.
Awesome. I'll link to it in the show notes.
Yes.
What are the best resources that have helped you in your career?
I really like Marx. I am very socialist. Well, not socialist as that, but I'm really into social movements. I'm also a big fan of Malala. Malala is a big inspiration of mine. I have done a company, an art company for her with other girlfriends. It's really inspiring for me. I will choose Malala as my first resource inspiration because, as we were saying before, being a girl sometimes is not easy for, well, in graffiti. And I have been challenging a lot with that. A few years ago, I went to Meeting of Styles, which is a festival that it's in a lot of parts of the world. And I went to Brazil, and we were, I think, 40 artists, and I was the only girl, the only woman between 40 artists. And it was very challenging, and it was very weird for me. Like, I traveled all the way through Mexico, expecting, I don't know, other company. And none of the boys were disrespectful for me or anything like that. All of them were great. But it was weird that there was no other girls, and sometimes it's difficult to express your opinion as a woman and in society, and to be like strong and powerful. And I think that the ones as Malala and myself, not that I'm comparing to Malala, because Malala is way tougher than me. I love her. She's the best. But I think we need to be strong in those cases, when you are representing your well, your girl gang. You need to be strong, and you need to be clever and very, very loveful, like very full of love. I don't know, I think that's the strength of us. Like, as women, we are not tough at all. Well, not me, but our toughness is our love, like to be passionate, to be caring for others, like, I don't know, that's our mother nature, to love the ones that surround us, to care about the people, to look after them, to be loveful, and that is our toughness, so that's why I also mention Marx, because he talks about production, chains of production. And I really like the be working thing, like be the beast, because teamwork is the key to success, as I see it. And all of us are teamwork, like a society is a teamwork, and we should help the ones that have less, and we should create opportunities for them. And art should inspire that. So I always try to put like a little, like, discreet social message in my art, but it's very discreet because I don't want to be like Atentamente Una Fresa, the social artist. No, that's but I want to make people conscious about that they should be respectful to others, to other kind also, not to humankind only, but to animals, to plants, and to everything. So yeah, I think Malala is the toughest resource of everything.
Yeah, for sure. What's something you wish I had asked you?
Maybe I would like to ask me just to say a message to other artists, that it's just to keep going. And well, for first artists that are not like out of the closet yet, that I wish to talk to them and to say that all of us have been like insider closet artists. And it's difficult sometimes to have criticism and to go out and share your work. But criticism it's awesome, when you learn how to take it and how to grow with it and how to share it. And sometimes when some bad comment comes to you and you're like, I hate bad comments, but that is a very interesting part when someone says that a hurtful comment and you are like, no, this is my art, I don't want to be hurt because it is very intimate. But no, when you go out of your comfort zone and share and get criticism, it is very powerful. I don't know, I love that. And I think that beginner artists are always like tricky with that part in their lives, but if I could tell like something to them, is like, go for it and never never look back and just keep going and believe in yourself, believe in your art, and that will take you to the most amazing places. So yeah, I think that's it.
Where can our listeners connect with you online?
Well, I am on Instagram and Facebook as Atentamente Una Fresa. And there you can talk to me, and I love weird comments and I love deep comments also. So if you want to talk to me and say anything that's going on in your mind that it's tricky or weird, I love weird thoughts. That's me. So yeah, I'm very open to talk to anyone. I love to talk.
Well, this has been really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. It's really nice. I mean, I just messaged you on the internet and we're talking now. So
yes, thank you, Stephanie, for the opportunity and for believing in this and making your program and to listen to what I'm saying and to share with me. This is awesome.
Thank you, and good luck with your project. I can't wait to see when it's done.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, and take care.
You too.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of First Coat. If you liked this video, please subscribe and check out the next episode in our playlist. Let me know what else you want to learn about public realm art in the comments below. And follow us on Instagram at First Coat Podcast or at Distill Creative. First Coat is a production of my company, Distill Creative. Check us out at distillcreative.com.